I knew the exact names of every man who had been inside my wife before I said them out loud in that crowded nightclub, and I knew that once those 3 names left my mouth, there would be no going back for either of us. The bass pounded through the floor like a diseased heartbeat, and Lauren stood beside me at the bar with her 4th mojito sweating in her perfectly manicured hand. She looked beautiful that night. I will give her that much. The kind of beautiful that turns heads in grocery stores and starts conversations at gas stations. The kind of beautiful that made men forget they wore wedding rings and had children waiting at home. "Any man would want to be with me," she said, her voice cutting through Pitbull or whoever the hell was playing, loaded with the kind of confidence that 6 years of marriage and 3 simultaneous affairs had apparently given her. "Don't forget how lucky you are, Daniel." I turned to face her slowly, like I had all the time in the world. The bartender was wiping down glasses maybe 3 feet away from us. A couple to our left had stopped their conversation mid-sentence. The moment felt suspended in amber, like those seconds right before a car accident when you see everything coming, but your hands are frozen on the wheel. "I know perfectly well the names of all your lovers," I said, and my voice came out steady and cold as January rain. "Thomas, Michael, Douglas." The music did not stop. The lights did not change, but something else stopped, something fundamental in the air between us. Lauren's smile froze on her face like she had been slapped. The bartender's hand paused mid-wipe. The couple leaned in closer, suddenly very interested in our business. "What?" Lauren laughed, but it came out wrong, too high and too fast, the laugh of someone who just heard their own name called in a police station. "What are you talking about? Are you drunk?" "Thomas Patterson, Michael Chen, Douglas Rivera," I continued, watching her face drain of color beneath the purple club lights like I was watching time-lapse footage of a flower dying. "The husbands of your 3 best friends, Amanda's husband, Jessica's husband, Sarah's husband. Should I continue with the details, or would you prefer I save those for when we visit them?" Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Her mojito hit the bar hard enough that mint leaves jumped out of the glass and landed on the polished wood. "Daniel, you are drunk. You are being crazy. You need to stop talking right now." But I was already walking toward the exit, threading through the Friday night crowd of college kids and desperate 30-somethings with the same precision I used when I was debugging code at work. Systems analyst. Everything is a system. Everything has a pattern. Even betrayal follows rules if you pay attention long enough. "Daniel!" Her heels clicked frantically behind me like a countdown timer. "Daniel, stop right now. You cannot just walk away." I pushed through the heavy door into the October night air, cool and sharp after the suffocating heat inside the club. My car was parked exactly 2 blocks away. I had planned this distance very carefully, giving myself time to walk, time to think, time to let the first domino fall before I pushed the second one. "You cannot just say something like that and walk away." Lauren caught my arm, her fingers digging in hard enough that I would find bruises the next morning. Her eyes were wild now, the alcohol mixing with panic in a way that made her pupils huge and dark. "Those are my friends' husbands. What the hell is wrong with you? Why would you say something like that?" "I know exactly who they are," I said simply, pulling my arm free with more force than necessary. "That is precisely the point. That is why this works." I left her standing under the flickering neon club sign, her mouth opening and closing like a fish drowning in air. By the time I reached my Honda Civic, she was already running toward her BMW, her heels clattering against the pavement like gunshots in the quiet street. I had been thinking about this exact moment for 3 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days. The first time I suspected something was deeply wrong was on a Tuesday in July, but the truth is I had been a fool for much longer than that. Lauren worked as a psychologist at the Riverside Mental Health Center, a sprawling facility that served 3 counties and employed maybe 40 therapists. She had irregular hours, evening sessions that ran late, weekend workshops about trauma or addiction or whatever the current therapeutic trend was. I worked as a systems analyst for a medical software company called Meditech Solutions, regular 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, as predictable as a metronome. We were, on paper at least, a successful professional couple in our early 30s with a nice house and decent savings, and all the markers of people who had figured life out. The irony could choke a horse. We met her friends for dinner every other Friday without fail. Amanda and Thomas Patterson, married 8 years with 2 kids. Jessica and Michael Chen, married 6 years, no kids, but 2 expensive cars. Sarah and Douglas Rivera, married 9 years, the quiet couple who mostly listened while everyone else talked. The 3 couples were like a social safety net, Lauren always said. Support, friendship, trust, the foundation of a good life. I learned that summer that the word irony has depths I never previously imagined. The discovery came through pure stupid accident, not through any detective work on my part. Lauren left her tablet on the kitchen counter one Wednesday morning in July, and a message notification popped up just as I was walking past with my coffee. Not her phone, understand? She was always extremely careful with her phone, keeping it locked, keeping it close, keeping it face down on every surface. But the tablet, which synced to the same iCloud account, she had apparently forgotten about completely. The message was from Thomas Patterson, sent at 6:42 in the morning. Last night was incredible. Cannot stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? I stood there in my kitchen for maybe 10 seconds, maybe 15, holding my coffee mug with the stupid joke about systems analysts printed on the side, staring at those words on the glowing screen. Then I set the mug down very carefully on the counter, picked up the tablet with hands that had started shaking, and started reading everything I could find. There were 3 separate message threads across 3 different apps. She had been smart enough not to keep everything in one convenient location, but not quite smart enough to log out of her tablet completely or remember that notifications could betray you. Thomas Patterson, Amanda's husband, the guy who coached Little League and made jokes about his receding hairline. 6 months of messages going back to January. Hotel rooms with specific addresses, afternoon meetings that never appeared on any work calendar I could access. Detailed descriptions of sexual acts that I will not repeat here because they made me want to vomit into my kitchen sink. Michael Chen, Jessica's husband, the pharmaceutical sales rep who always drove cars that cost more than my annual salary. 4 months of messages starting in March. His messages were somehow worse because he tried to make them poetic, like he was writing her love letters instead of just documenting an affair. Your skin tastes like honey and secrets, one message said, and I remember thinking that if I ever saw him again, I might actually hit him just for that sentence alone. Douglas Rivera, Sarah's husband, the forensic accountant who barely said 5 words at dinner parties. 9 months of messages stretching all the way back to October of the previous year. The longest affair, the most careful one. His messages were brief and logistical. Times and places and confirmations, nothing flowery or stupid. Just pure calculated betrayal with the emotional content of a tax return. I sat down at the kitchen table and photographed everything. Every message, every photo she had sent them or they had sent her. Every hotel confirmation, every lie about working late or meeting a client or attending a workshop. I photographed it all methodically using my phone, like I was documenting a system failure at work, which in a way I suppose I was. A complete catastrophic failure of every system I thought my life was built on. Then I deleted all the photos from the tablet's recently viewed folder, cleared every notification, closed every app, and set the tablet back exactly where Lauren had left it. I checked the kitchen to make sure nothing looked disturbed. I picked up my coffee mug, realized the coffee had gone cold, poured it down the sink, and went to work exactly on time at 8:30. For 3 months, I watched and verified and cross-referenced her lies against reality. I watched her kiss me goodbye in the morning, and then read her messages to Thomas about meeting him at the Riverside Hotel that afternoon in room 214. I sat across from the 3 couples at our bi-weekly dinners and watched the way eyes met and did not meet, the way Jessica touched Michael's arm and the way Michael did not quite look at Lauren, the way Sarah went quiet whenever Douglas laughed at one of Lauren's jokes. I documented patterns the way I documented code bugs at work, building spreadsheets with dates and times and locations, creating a database of betrayal that would have been impressive if it was not so personally devastating. Amanda Patterson suspected nothing. I could see it in the way she smiled at Lauren, genuine and warm, the way she asked about work and remembered little details about Lauren's difficult clients. Jessica Chen suspected nothing. She and Lauren went shopping together, got their nails done together, texted each other constantly about nothing important. Sarah Rivera suspected nothing either, or at least that is what I thought at the time. I suspected everything, and I built my case the way I would build a database architecture, carefully, completely, with redundancy and verification and absolutely no room for error or interpretation. By early October, I had timelines that could stand up in court. I had hotel records I had obtained by calling and pretending to be Douglas Rivera confirming reservations. I had screenshots and photographs and a document nearly 50 pages long that detailed every lie Lauren had told me for the past 9 months. I had enough proof that denial would not just be difficult, it would be literally impossible. And I had a plan that would strip away every comfortable lie my wife had built her life on, one by one, in front of everyone who mattered. The nightclub was step 1, public, loud, witnesses, the kind of accusation that could not be taken back or explained away or dismissed as a private marital dispute. I needed it to be real and undeniable from the very first moment. Now, Driving through the dark streets of our city with Lauren's headlights following me in the rearview mirror like a pursuing ghost, I moved to step 2. The Patterson house sat in one of those suburban neighborhoods where every lawn looked absolutely identical and every mailbox was painted the same shade of black and every house had the same approved exterior colors. Thomas and Amanda had lived there for 8 years in a 4-bedroom colonial with a 2-car garage and a wooden swing set in the backyard. They had 2 kids, ages 6 and 4. They had a golden retriever named Bailey. They had the kind of marriage that looked perfect from the outside, the kind that made other couples slightly envious. I parked directly in front of their house at 11:47 at night, according to my car's dashboard clock. Not subtly, not around the corner. Directly in front, under the streetlight, in a way that could not possibly be missed by anyone looking out a window. Lauren screeched to a stop behind me, nearly hitting my rear bumper, her BMW jerking forward and back as she hit the brakes too late. She was out of her car before the engine even stopped, running toward me in those ridiculous heels that she insisted made her legs look longer. "Daniel, whatever you think you know, whatever you think you are doing," she started, her voice high and panicked. "I am not interested in what you have to say," I interrupted, walking up the Patterson driveway toward the front door with its wreath made of dried flowers and its doormat that said, "Welcome, friends." Not anymore. Not ever again, actually. "You cannot do this." She grabbed my arm again, her nails sharp enough to draw blood through my shirt sleeve. "Please, Daniel, please, we can talk about this at home. We can figure this out." I rang the doorbell. The chime echoed inside the house, a cheerful 2-note melody that seemed obscene given what was about to happen. "You are going to ruin everything." Lauren's voice cracked into something high and desperate and almost unrecognizable. "You are going to destroy people's lives. You are going to hurt innocent people." The door opened. Amanda Patterson stood there in gray yoga pants and a faded college sweatshirt that said, University of Michigan, in cracked letters. Her reading glasses were perched on top of her head, and she had a paperback novel in one hand with a bookmark sticking out. Behind her in the hallway, Thomas appeared, looking confused and slightly annoyed at being disturbed this late. "Daniel?" Amanda blinked at us, her expression shifting from confusion to concern. "Lauren, what is going on? It is almost midnight. Is everything okay?" "Your husband has been sleeping with my wife for the past 6 months," I said clearly, looking directly at Amanda and no one else. "I have messages between them, photographs of them together at hotels, and a complete timeline of every time they met. I am sorry you had to find out this way, Amanda, but I thought you deserved to know the truth about who you are married to." The silence that followed was enormous and crushing, like all the air had been sucked out of the neighborhood. Amanda's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, disbelief, a flicker of hope that this was some kind of terrible joke, then comprehension, then something harder and colder than I had ever seen on her face before. Thomas went pale, all the color draining out of his face like water down a sink. His mouth opened, but no sound came out at all. "That is insane." Lauren tried to push past me, tried to get between me and Amanda. "Amanda, he is having some kind of breakdown. He has been drinking all night. He is not thinking clearly." "Is it true?" Amanda's voice was very quiet, barely louder than a whisper. She was not looking at me anymore. She was not looking at Lauren. She was looking directly at her husband of 8 years, the father of her 2 children, the man she had trusted with her entire life. "Thomas, is what Daniel just said true?" "Amanda, I can explain." Thomas started, taking a step forward with his hands out like he was approaching a dangerous animal. "Is it true?" Thomas looked at Lauren, then at me, then back at his wife. His mouth worked silently for a moment, and then he said nothing at all. Just stood there like a statue, frozen by his own guilt. The nothing was enough. The silence was a confession louder than any words. Amanda's hand moved so fast I almost did not see it. The slap echoed across the porch like a gunshot, sharp and final and decisive. Lauren stumbled backward, her hand flying to her face, shock replacing panic in her wide eyes. A red mark was already blooming across her cheek. "You bitch," Amanda said, and her voice was shaking but completely controlled. "You absolute lying bitch. 6 years of friendship, 6 years of me trusting you around my husband, around my children, in my home, 6 years of girls' nights and birthday parties, and me telling you my secrets, my fears, my problems, and you were sleeping with Thomas the entire time?" "Amanda, please, it was not like that." Lauren tried, her voice breaking. "Get off my property." Amanda's eyes were bright with tears now, but she was not crying yet. The tears just sat there, waiting. "Get away from my house. Get away from my family. If I ever see you again, if you ever try to contact me again, I will make you regret it. Do you understand me?" I turned to Thomas, who still stood frozen in the doorway like a man who had just watched his entire life collapse. He was taller than me by maybe 3 inches and probably 40 pounds heavier, the kind of build that came from playing softball on weekends and occasionally going to the gym, but mostly sitting in an office chair. He was wearing pajama pants and a t-shirt, and he looked smaller somehow than he ever had before. I stepped close enough to him that he had to look down to meet my eyes. "If you ever contact my wife again," I said very quietly enough that only he could hear, "I will make certain that everyone you work with knows exactly what kind of man you are. Your boss, your clients, your softball team, your parents, your children's teachers, everyone. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" Thomas's jaw tightened, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. For a moment I thought he might actually take a swing at me, and part of me almost hoped he would, because it would make everything simpler. But he just stood there breathing hard through his nose, his face red, his eyes wet. "Get out of here," he said finally, his voice rough. "Just get out." I walked back to my car. Lauren stood in the middle of the Patterson lawn, her hand still pressed to her reddening cheek, staring at me like she had never seen me before in her life, like I was a stranger, like I was something dangerous. "Daniel, please," she started, taking a step toward me. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove away without another word. In my rearview mirror, I watched Amanda step back inside and slam the door hard enough to rattle the wreath. I watched Lauren stand alone in the dark suburban street, her shoulders shaking, her perfect life beginning its collapse. 1 down, 2 to go. The Chen house was significantly bigger and newer than the Patterson place, located in one of those developments where houses started at $700,000 and went up from there. Michael and Jessica had bought it 3 years ago, all modern architecture and huge windows and carefully landscaped yards with Japanese maples and decorative grasses. Michael worked in pharmaceutical sales and made the kind of money that bought luxury cars and expensive watches. Jessica managed a boutique clothing store in the upscale part of downtown. They had no children, 2 cars that cost more than most people's annual salary, and a marriage that apparently meant absolutely nothing. I arrived at the Chen house at 12:33 in the morning, according to my phone. This time, Lauren was already there, waiting for me. She had beaten me by maybe 2 minutes, her BMW parked crookedly across the street with the hazard lights blinking like a warning. She ran toward my car as soon as I pulled up, and this time she was not just panicked, she was furious. Her face was twisted with rage and desperation and something else I could not quite identify. "Daniel, stop this right now." She slammed her hands against my car window before I could even open the door. "You have made your point, okay? You have humiliated me, you have hurt me, you have shown me that you can destroy my friendships. Are you happy now? Can we please just go home and talk about this like adults?" I got out of the car slowly, carefully, keeping my movements deliberate and calm. "I have not even started," I said, walking past her toward the Chen's front door. The house was still completely lit up inside, every window glowing warm and yellow against the dark street. I could see movement through the large front windows, shadows passing back and forth. They were still awake. Perfect. I rang the doorbell, knocked, rang again for good measure. "Please!" Lauren was crying again, really crying now, her makeup running down her face in dark streaks. "Please do not do this. I will do anything. I will leave all of them alone forever. I will go to marriage counseling. I will quit my job. Whatever you want. Just please stop." The front door opened. Jessica Chen stood there looking tired but put together, now wearing expensive loungewear and holding a glass of red wine. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she looked annoyed more than concerned. Behind her, Michael appeared in the hallway, his expression wary and guarded. "Daniel?" Jessica's eyebrows went up. "What is wrong? Is someone hurt?" Then she saw Lauren's face, saw the tears and the smeared makeup and the wild eyes. "Oh my God, what happened?" "Your husband has been having an affair with my wife for the past 4 months," I said, my voice calm and clear and factual. "They have been meeting at the Riverside Hotel every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon while you thought he was visiting clients. But I have messages between them, I have hotel receipts, I have photographs. I thought you deserved to know the truth about your marriage." Jessica's face went completely blank. Not angry yet. Not sad. Just blank. Like her brain was trying to process information that did not make any sense. Like I had just told her the sky was green or gravity had stopped working. "You are lying," she said flatly. "I am not." "He is insane," Lauren pushed forward, trying to get between me and Jessica again. "Jessica, I swear to God, he has been drinking all night. He is making things up to hurt me." "Am I making it up?" I looked directly at Michael Chen, who had gone very still in the hallway. Tell your wife I am making it up, Michael. Tell her about the Riverside Hotel. Tell her about Tuesday afternoons when you said you were meeting with doctors at the hospital. Tell her about the messages you sent my wife describing what you wanted to do to her body. This is complete bullshit. Michael's voice came out loud and aggressive, the voice of a man used to closing sales and winning arguments. You cannot just show up at my house in the middle of the night throwing around crazy accusations. Show her your phone, I said calmly, quietly, my voice cutting through his bluster like a knife. Show Jessica your text messages with my wife. Show her the photos Lauren sent you. Unless you deleted everything in the last hour, they should still be there. Michael's face flushed dark red, his jaw clenching. He stepped forward onto the porch, his shoulders squared, his body language aggressive and threatening. Get the hell away from my house right now, he said. Michael. Jessica's voice was very small suddenly, like a child asking a question she already knows the answer to but hopes she is wrong. Show me your phone, right now. This is ridiculous. I am not going to stand here and... Show me your goddamn phone. The scream cut through the night air like a knife. Jessica had moved forward onto the porch now, standing between Michael and me, her whole body rigid with barely controlled rage. Show me your text messages with Lauren. Show me right now, or I swear to God. Michael looked at me with something like pure hatred burning in his eyes, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping. He was calculating something. I could see it happening behind his face, weighing his options. Could he claim I was lying? Could he say his phone was dead or lost? Could he somehow spin this? Then suddenly he shoved me, hard, both hands flat against my chest with enough force that I stumbled backward down the 3 porch steps. I felt my feet leave the ground for a moment, felt myself falling backward through empty air. My back slammed into the wooden railing post, and pain exploded across my shoulders and down my spine like someone had hit me with a baseball bat. For a second, the world tilted sideways, and I thought I might actually fall completely, but I managed to catch myself on the railing, my hands gripping the wood hard enough that I felt splinters dig into my palms. You need to leave right now. Michael came down the steps after me, his fists clenched at his sides, his face flushed dark red. His body language was pure aggression, shoulders squared, moving into my space. Right now, before I make you leave. This is my house, and you are trespassing. I straightened slowly, deliberately, keeping my eyes locked on his the entire time. He was angry, yes, radiating fury like heat, but underneath the anger, underneath all that aggressive posturing, he was absolutely terrified. The anger was just louder than the fear, more familiar, easier to access and display. Men like Michael always chose anger when they were scared because it made them feel powerful. Touch me again, I said very quietly, and your wife will not be the only person who knows what you have been doing. I will call your boss. I will call your clients. I will post everything on social media with your name and your face attached. Do you understand what I am telling you, Michael? Are you threatening me? Michael moved closer, getting into my space, using his height to try to intimidate me. I am describing reality, I said, refusing to back up or look away. You can hit me if it makes you feel better about yourself. But Jessica will still know the truth. Your friends will still know. Your family will still know. Physical violence does not change facts. It just makes you look more guilty. For several long seconds we stood there in the Chen's expensive driveway, him looming over me refusing to flinch. I could hear Lauren crying somewhere behind me. I could hear the distant sound of a car driving past on the main road. Then Jessica appeared at Michael's shoulder, and her voice when she spoke was made of ice. Michael, she said quietly, did you sleep with Lauren? He did not answer immediately. Did you sleep with my friend? Yes or no? Still nothing. The silence stretched out between them like a chasm opening in the earth. Jessica turned to Lauren, who stood frozen on the perfectly manicured walkway, tears streaming down her face. Jessica looked at her for a long moment, and something happened in her expression. Something hardened, something broke, something turned cold and final. Get away from my house, Jessica said, her voice absolutely steady now. Get away from my life. If I ever see you again, Lauren, if you ever try to contact me or speak to me or come near me, I will destroy you. Do you understand? I will take everything you care about, and I will burn it all to the ground, and I will smile while I do it. In the distance, sirens started wailing. Someone had called the police, probably a neighbor who heard shouting in the middle of the night. Time to leave. I walked back to my car without running, without hurrying, just walking at a normal pace like I had all the time in the world. Michael stood on his porch with his fists still clenched but completely useless. Jessica had already gone back inside, and I heard the door slam with enough force to rattle the expensive glass panels. Lauren followed me to my car, stumbling in her heels, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Daniel, Please, please, you have to stop. You cannot do this to me." I got in my car, started the engine, and drove away. The sirens were getting closer. Let them come. Let them sort out who called them and why. Let Michael Chen explain to the police why his neighbor heard shouting at 1 a.m. I had one more stop to make tonight. Sarah and Douglas Rivera lived in a converted warehouse loft in the Arts District downtown, all exposed brick and industrial windows and carefully curated vintage furniture. Douglas worked as a forensic accountant for a firm that investigated financial crimes. Sarah taught high school English at the magnet school across town. They were the quiet couple in the friend group, the ones who listened more than they talked, the ones who seemed to observe everything but judge nothing, the ones who had been lying to everyone for the longest. I arrived at the loft building at 1:28 in the morning. The building had an overnight security guard sitting behind a desk in the lobby, but he barely looked up from his phone as I walked past toward the elevators. I probably looked like any other resident coming home late on a Friday night. Lauren was maybe 5 minutes behind me. I heard her car screech to a stop outside the building entrance just as the elevator doors closed, and I saw her running through the lobby in my peripheral vision as I pressed the button for the 8th floor. She caught me halfway down the hallway. She did not grab me this time. She just walked beside me, her breathing ragged, her face destroyed by tears and smeared makeup. "Stop," she said quietly, hoarsely. "Daniel, please just stop for 1 minute and look at me." I kept walking. "Say something to me." Her voice rose to a scream that echoed in the concrete hallway. "Yell at me, hit me, do something. Just stop acting like I do not even exist." I stopped in front of apartment 814, the Rivera place. Their door had a welcome mat that said, "Come in, we are awesome," in cheerful letters. I turned to look at Lauren for the first time since we left the club. "Do you want me to hit you?" I asked, genuinely curious. "I want you to react like a normal person." She was hysterical now, her hands shaking, her whole body trembling. "I want you to be angry. I want you to scream. I want you to throw things. I want you to do anything except this calm, insane revenge plan." "I am not angry anymore," I said honestly. I was angry 3 months ago when I first found out. I was furious for about 2 weeks. Then I was just sad. Then I was nothing at all. Now I am just finishing what you started. I knocked on the Rivera door, loudly, repeatedly. "They are your friends." Lauren tried one more time, her voice breaking completely. "Sarah has been my best friend since college. We have known each other for 10 years. You are going to destroy that." "You destroyed it 9 months ago," I said, still knocking. "When you decided to sleep with her husband. I am just making sure everyone knows what you destroyed." The door opened. Sarah Rivera stood there in pajama shorts and an oversized t-shirt with a faded band logo. Her hair was in a messy bun, and she was not wearing any makeup. She looked young and tired and confused. Behind her in the loft, Douglas appeared, looking alarmed. "Daniel?" Sarah blinked at us. "Lauren? What is happening? Is someone hurt?" "Your husband has been having an affair with my wife for the past 9 months, I said, keeping my voice level and clear. "It started last October. They have been extremely careful about it, more careful than the others, but I have hotel receipts going back to November, text messages, and photographs of them together. I thought you deserved to know before everyone else found out." Sarah's face crumpled immediately. Not anger first, like Amanda, not shock, like Jessica, just immediate pure devastation, like someone had reached into her chest and torn something vital out. She looked at Douglas, who had gone absolutely rigid in the doorway of their expensive loft. "No," Sarah said, and the word came out like a prayer or a curse. "No, no, no, please, no." "Sarah, listen to me," Douglas started, taking a step forward. "Do not." Sarah held up one hand, stopping him without even looking at him. Then she turned to Lauren, and her eyes were already red. You did this? For 9 months you were sleeping with Douglas while pretending to be my friend?" Lauren was crying again, but this time the tears looked different, exhausted, defeated. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "Sarah, I am so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." "You are sorry?" Sarah's voice climbed an octave. "You slept with my husband for 9 months. You lied to my face every single day, and you are sorry." "I did not mean for it to happen. It just started, and then I could not stop." Sarah's hand moved fast, connecting with Lauren's face with a crack that echoed in the concrete hallway. Lauren staggered sideways, catching herself against the wall, her hand flying to her cheek. "Get out," Sarah said quietly. "Both of you. Get out of my building. Get out of my life." "Sarah, please, we need to talk." Lauren tried. "I do not want to hear your voice." Sarah's hands were shaking now, her whole body vibrating with suppressed emotion. I do not want to see your face. I do not want you anywhere near me ever again. Do you understand? We are done. Our friendship is over. You are dead to me. Sarah, Douglas tried, stepping forward. You too? Sarah said, and now she was looking at her husband, really looking at him. Pack a bag and get out of my apartment. Tonight. Right now. Sarah, come on. Let us just talk about this like adults. Get out! The scream echoed through the hallway, raw and primal. Get out of my home right now before I call the police and have you removed. Douglas flinched hard. He looked at me, then at Lauren, then back at his wife. Something passed across his face. Some kind of calculation or realization. Then he turned and went back inside without another word. Sarah stepped closer to me, lowering her voice to barely above a whisper so that only I could hear her words. Her eyes were dry now, completely dry, hard and cold as winter ice. The tears had stopped like someone had turned off a faucet. I knew, she said simply, flatly, like she was commenting on the weather. I went very still, processing what she had just said. What do you mean you knew? I knew about them, all of them. Not every detail, not the exact timeline, not which hotel rooms or which days. Sarah's voice was completely emotionless now, like she was reading from a script she had memorized. But I knew Lauren was sleeping with married men, with our husbands, with the men who sat at our dinner table and made jokes and pretended everything was normal. When did you find out? I asked quietly, aware that Lauren was still standing in the hallway behind me, listening to every word. About a year ago, maybe 13 months now. Sarah crossed her arms over her chest. I saw messages between Lauren and Jessica. Jessica was worried about Michael, asking Lauren if she had noticed how much time he was spending away from home, how distant he had become. And Lauren was deflecting, changing the subject, making excuses for him, saying he was probably just stressed about work, it was too smooth, too practiced, like she had said those exact words before. So you started paying attention, I said, understanding beginning to dawn cold in my chest. I started paying attention, Sarah confirmed. I watched the way Douglas looked at Lauren when he thought no one was watching. I noticed how Jessica would mention Michael being gone, and Lauren would immediately redirect the conversation. I saw Amanda start to ask a question about Thomas working late, and Lauren would cut her off with some story about a difficult client. It was a pattern, clear as day once you knew to look for it. Why did you not tell anyone? The question came out harder than I intended. Why did you not tell Amanda or Jessica? Why did you let it continue? Because I was a coward, Sarah said, and now there was emotion creeping back into her voice. Bitterness, self-loathing. Because I did not want to be the one who blew up 4 marriages, including my own. Because I thought maybe if I just ignored it, if I just pretended I did not see what I saw, eventually it would stop on its own and everything could go back to normal. Because I was stupid and weak, and I chose comfort over truth. You helped hide it, I said, understanding dawning cold in my chest. You covered for her. I changed the subject when Amanda or Jessica started asking questions. I made excuses when Lauren was late or unavailable. I kept the group together even though I knew what was happening underneath. Sarah looked at Lauren, who stood slumped against the concrete wall listening to everything. I protected you, and you just kept doing it anyway. Kept sleeping with all of them. Kept lying to all of us. Sarah, I am so sorry. Lauren started, her voice barely a whisper. No, you are not. You are sorry you got caught. Sarah turned back toward her apartment. I hope whatever happens to you next hurts. I really do. I hope it hurts for a very long time. She closed the door quietly. Not a slam. Somehow the quiet, careful closing was worse than violence would have been. Lauren and I stood alone in the hallway for a long moment. Neither of us moved. Then slowly, like her legs would not hold her anymore, Lauren slid down the wall until she was sitting on the industrial carpet, her head in her hands. What happens now? She asked, her voice muffled and broken. You have told everyone. You have destroyed all my friendships. You have humiliated me in front of everyone I care about. What happens now, Daniel? Now, I said, looking down at her crumpled on the floor. You lose your job. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with new fear. No. Daniel, no, please not that. You cannot do that to me. Watch me, I said, and walked toward the elevator. Monday morning arrived cold and gray, the kind of October day that made you believe winter was coming early this year and would never leave. I woke up at 6:15, earlier than usual, and lay in bed for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling and thinking about what I was about to do. Lauren had not come home all weekend. The house felt different without her in it, quieter but also cleaner somehow, like a wound that had finally stopped bleeding. I got up and showered. I shaved carefully, taking my time with the razor. I dressed in my best business casual clothes, the blue button-down shirt Lauren had bought me for my birthday 2 years ago, khakis that I had pressed the night before, and the leather shoes I usually only wore for important presentations at work. I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time. The man looking back at me seemed calmer than I felt, more controlled, like he knew exactly what he was doing. Nothing threatening in my appearance, nothing that would make security nervous or give Lauren any excuse to paint me as unstable or dangerous. Just a concerned husband coming to speak with his wife about an important family matter. I ate breakfast slowly, toast and coffee. I read the news on my phone, though I absorbed nothing. At 8:15, I got in my car and drove across town toward the north side, where the Riverside Mental Health Center sat like a monument to therapeutic care and professional competence. The building itself was impressive in that modern institutional way. 3 stories of glass and steel and carefully calculated angles designed to look open and welcoming. Large windows that let in natural light, a parking lot with designated spots for staff and visitors, a circular driveway with a fountain that was turned off for the season. Lauren had been so proud when she got hired here 4 years ago, starting as a junior therapist fresh out of her residency and working her way up to senior staff with her own office and her own caseload of clients dealing with trauma and depression and anxiety and all the ways human beings find to hurt themselves and each other. People trusted her with their deepest secrets, their worst fears, their most vulnerable moments. They sat in her office and cried and told her things they had never told anyone else, and she listened and nodded and took notes and gave them strategies for healing. The irony was so thick you could choke on it and die. I arrived at the center at 8:45 in the morning, parking in a visitor spot near the front entrance. This was the busiest part of the morning routine at a mental health facility. Staff arriving for the start of their shifts, therapists coming in to prepare for their first appointments, early clients checking in for sessions. The lobby would be full of people, full of witnesses, full of ears to hear what I was about to say. Perfect. I walked through the automatic glass doors into the lobby. The space was designed to be calming and non-threatening. Soft gray walls, comfortable seating arranged in small clusters, plants in large pots, abstract art that probably cost thousands of dollars but looked like something a child had made. Soft music playing from hidden speakers, something instrumental and vaguely therapeutic. The reception desk sat in the center of the space, a curved modern thing made of light wood and glass, and behind it sat a young woman with purple streaks in her dark hair, typing at a computer. Around the lobby, maybe 15 or 20 people sat in the chairs or stood in small groups. Some looked like staff, carrying briefcases and coffee cups, wearing the kind of professional casual clothes that therapists favor. Others were clearly clients, sitting alone, looking nervous or tired, or both. A few were filling out paperwork on clipboards. Everyone spoke in hushed voices, the way people do in hospitals and libraries and funeral homes. I walked up to the reception desk. The young woman looked up from her computer and gave me a practiced, professional smile. "Good morning. How can I help you today?" "I need to speak with Dr. Lauren Chambers about an urgent family matter," I said politely, keeping my voice calm and reasonable. "It cannot wait." The receptionist's smile faltered slightly. Her eyes flickered over me, taking in my pressed clothes and calm demeanor, trying to assess whether I was a threat. "Is this an emergency situation? Is someone injured or in danger?" "No one is injured," I said, "but it is urgent. A family matter that needs to be addressed immediately." "Okay, let me just call her extension and see if she is available between appointments." The receptionist picked up her desk phone and dialed a 4-digit extension. "Can I have your name, please, for the message?" "Her husband, Daniel Chambers." Something flickered across the receptionist's face. Confusion, maybe, or curiosity, or possibly recognition. She had probably heard Lauren mention me at some point. Maybe she had even met me at one of the staff holiday parties. "Oh, okay, let me just..." She spoke quietly into the phone, her voice too low for me to hear the exact words. Then she paused, listening. Her expression shifted slightly. "Yes, he is here in the lobby right now." "Okay, yes." She hung up and looked back at me. "Dr. Chambers says she will be right out. If you would like to take a seat..." "I will stand, thank you." The receptionist nodded and went back to her computer, but I could tell she was still watching me from the corner of her eye. Around the lobby, a few people had noticed the interaction and were looking at me with mild curiosity. I stood near the reception desk and waited, keeping my breathing steady, keeping my hands relaxed at my sides. 2 minutes passed, then 3. Then the door to the back hallway opened and Lauren appeared. She looked terrible, worse than I had seen her look in years. Dark circles under her eyes like bruises, the kind that come from not sleeping for multiple nights in a row. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail but not styled properly, with pieces falling out and hanging loose around her face. Her clothes were slightly rumpled, her blouse not quite tucked in properly, her slacks creased in the wrong places like she had slept in them or maybe had not slept at all. She was not wearing makeup, or if she was, it had worn off completely. She looked exhausted and defeated and desperate. Good. She had clearly not been home since Friday night. I knew this for a fact because I had been home all weekend, watching television and eating takeout and waiting for her car to appear in the driveway. It never had. She had been sleeping somewhere else. A hotel, maybe, or possibly on a friend's couch. Though given that I had destroyed all her friendships 3 days ago, the friend option seemed unlikely. "Daniel," she hissed as soon as she saw me, her eyes going wide. She rushed across the lobby and grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in hard. "What are you doing here? You cannot just show up at my work unannounced like this. We need to talk," I said clearly, not moving, not lowering my voice at all. Several people in the lobby looked up from their phones and magazines. "About our marriage. About some things you have been hiding from everyone here." "Not here, for God's sake." Her eyes darted around the lobby frantically, taking in all the watching faces, all the listening ears. More people were paying attention now, sensing drama, drawn to conflict the way people always are. "Daniel, please, can we go outside? Can we go to the parking lot?" "No," I said, still not moving. "Here is fine. Here is perfect, actually." "Please," she whispered urgently, trying to pull me toward the door. "Please, I am begging you, not here, not at my work, anywhere but here." I pulled my arm free from her grip. "Since you will not answer my phone calls, since you disappeared for 3 days without a word, since you refuse to have this conversation anywhere else, here seems perfectly appropriate." "Daniel, I am serious. If you do not leave right now." Her voice was rising, becoming shrill and panicked. "What?" I asked calmly. "What will you do? Call security? Have me removed? That will make quite a scene, will it not?" Around us, the lobby had gone quiet. Every conversation had stopped. Every person was watching us now, some openly staring, others pretending not to watch while clearly listening to every word. The receptionist had her hand on her phone, ready to call someone if this escalated. A man in a suit who looked like management had appeared in the doorway to the back hallway, watching with a concerned expression. Lauren looked around at all the watching faces, and I saw her realize that she had lost control of this situation before it even started. "Please," she said one more time, quietly, her voice breaking. "Please do not do this to me." "I want everyone here to know something important," I said, and now I was speaking loudly and clearly, projecting my voice so that every single person in that lobby could hear me without any difficulty. "I want everyone present to understand who they are working with, who they are trusting with their mental health." "Stop," Lauren said, but it came out as barely a whisper. Dr. Lauren Chambers, licensed therapist and trusted counselor, has been having simultaneous affairs with 3 different married men for the past 9 months. I looked around the lobby as I spoke, making eye contact with different people, making sure they could all see that I was calm and rational and completely serious. Not just any married men, the husbands of her 3 closest friends, women who trusted her, women who considered her family. The lobby went absolutely silent, the kind of silence that feels heavy and oppressive, like the air pressure had suddenly changed, the kind of silence where you can hear the ventilation system humming in the ceiling and the soft background music still playing from the speakers and someone's phone buzzing on silent mode from across the room. Lauren's face went white as paper. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. She looked around at all the shocked faces, all the wide eyes, all the people who now knew her secret. "You cannot do this," she finally managed to say, her voice hoarse. "I just did," I replied calmly. "I thought your colleagues deserved to know. I thought your clients deserved to know what kind of person is counseling them through their own relationship problems and trust issues, what kind of judgment she exercises in her personal life, what kind of ethics she actually practices when no one is watching." "That is a lie," Lauren shouted, her voice cracking with desperation. "He is lying. He has been drinking. He is having some kind of mental breakdown." "I have evidence," I said, cutting her off. "Text messages, hotel receipts, photographs, a complete timeline of every affair over the past 9 months. I would be happy to share it with anyone who wants to verify what I am saying." The man in the suit stepped forward. He was maybe 50, with gray hair and the kind of face that had seen a lot of workplace drama. "Sir, I am going to have to ask you to leave the premises. This is not appropriate." "I am leaving," I said, already turning toward the glass doors. "I have said what I came to say. I just wanted to make sure everyone here understood exactly who Lauren Chambers is, what she is capable of, the kind of person you are employing to help vulnerable people with their problems." "Someone call security," Lauren screamed. "Call the police. He is trespassing. He is making false accusations." but I was already walking out the doors into the cold gray morning. Behind me, I could hear voices rising, confused and shocked and angry. I could hear Lauren's voice getting louder and more desperate, trying to explain, trying to control the narrative, trying desperately to salvage something from the wreckage I had just created in the middle of her workplace. She could not. Some things, once said in public, cannot be unsaid. Some knowledge, once shared, cannot be forgotten or explained away. I walked to my car and got inside. My hands were shaking slightly from adrenaline, but I felt calm, almost peaceful. One more piece of her life destroyed. One more consequence delivered. I sat in my car in the visitor parking lot for the next 30 minutes, watching the front entrance of the building through my windshield. I wanted to see what would happen next. I wanted to watch the fallout unfold in real time. At 9:18, Dr. Margaret Foster arrived. I recognized her from the Riverside Mental Health website where her photo appeared under Leadership Team Clinical Director. She was maybe 60, with short gray hair and glasses, dressed in a pantsuit that looked expensive. She got out of her Mercedes and hurried toward the building entrance, her briefcase clutched tight in one hand, her phone pressed to her ear with the other. Her expression was grim and determined, the look of someone who had just been called about a crisis. At 9:23, 2 staff members came outside for what was clearly an emergency cigarette break. Both women, both in their 30s, both looking upset. They stood near the entrance, far enough from the doors that they would not bother clients coming in and out, and lit their cigarettes with shaking hands. They talked intensely, gesturing back toward the building with sharp, angry movements. One of them was crying, mascara running down her face. The other kept shaking her head like she could not believe what she was hearing. At 9:37, another therapist I recognized arrived late. Rebecca something, a woman maybe 40 years old who had been at several of Lauren's office parties over the years. She did couples counseling, I remembered Lauren mentioning once. Rebecca pulled into the parking lot, got out of her car, and then just stood there for a long time, staring at the building like it had personally betrayed her. She held her purse and her coffee cup, but did not move toward the entrance. Just stood there, frozen, clearly debating whether she even wanted to go inside. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, then decided to answer. Mr. Chambers? A woman's voice, professional and cold and precisely controlled. This is Dr. Margaret Foster from Riverside Mental Health. I am the clinical director here. I need to speak with you about what just happened in our lobby this morning. What about it? I asked calmly. What you did was completely inappropriate and unprofessional. Her voice had an edge to it now, anger barely contained beneath the professional veneer. You disrupted our workplace. You made serious accusations against a staff member in front of clients and colleagues. You created an extremely uncomfortable and possibly traumatizing situation for everyone present, including people who come here seeking mental health treatment. Do you understand how inappropriate that was? Everything I said was true, I replied. Every single word. I did not make anything up. I did not exaggerate. I stated facts. That is irrelevant. Is it? Is the truth irrelevant when it comes to the ethics and judgment of someone you employ to counsel vulnerable people? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When Dr. Foster spoke again, her voice was different. Still professional, still controlled, but the anger had been replaced by something else. Weariness, maybe, or resignation. That is actually why I am calling. We need to verify the information you shared this morning. If what you said is true, we have a serious professional ethics issue that needs to be addressed immediately. I can provide documentation if you need it, I said. Yes, I need you to send me any evidence you have. Text messages, emails, hotel receipts, photographs, anything that supports the claims you made. She paused. I need to be clear with you, Mr. Chambers. If you are lying about this, if you made false accusations, there will be legal consequences. Do you understand? I understand completely, and I am not lying. Everything I said is documented and verifiable. Then send me the documentation. I will give you my direct email address. She recited it slowly, and I wrote it down on a piece of paper I found in my glove compartment. I expect to receive something from you within the hour. Is that understood? Yes. And Mr. Chambers, do not come back to this facility. If you show up here again, I will have you arrested for trespassing. Are we clear? Perfectly clear. She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in my car and pulled out my phone and spent the next 15 minutes carefully selecting and forwarding evidence to Dr. Foster's email address. Screenshots of text messages between Lauren and Thomas Patterson, carefully cropped to remove anything too graphic but showing enough to prove the relationship was sexual. Hotel receipts I had obtained showing charges to Thomas Patterson's credit card at the Riverside Hotel. A few photographs I had taken of Lauren and Michael Chen entering the same hotel on a Thursday afternoon, time-stamped and date-stamped. a partial timeline document showing the pattern of meetings over several months. Nothing too explicit, nothing that would be considered revenge porn or violate any laws. Just enough documentation to prove the basic facts were accurate and undeniable. I hit send and put my phone away. At 10:15, a police car pulled into the parking lot. 2 officers got out and went inside. I tensed, wondering if they were there for me, if Lauren had convinced someone to file charges, but they came back out 5 minutes later without anyone in custody. Just checking on the situation, probably, making sure there was no ongoing threat. At 10:43, I saw Lauren herself. She came out a side door, not the main entrance, moving fast with her head down. She was carrying a cardboard box, the universal symbol of someone who had just been fired. She practically ran to her BMW, threw the box in the back seat, and peeled out of the parking lot like she was fleeing a crime scene. I watched her drive away and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no anger, just nothing. At 11:30, I started my car and drove to work. I was 2 hours late, but I did not care. I walked into the office, said good morning to my coworkers like nothing had happened, sat down at my desk, and started working on the bug reports that had piled up over the weekend. Around 3 in the afternoon, my personal email pinged with a new message. The sender was Dr. Margaret Foster. The subject line was blank. The message itself was only 3 sentences long. Thank you for the information you provided. We have reviewed the evidence and addressed the situation internally. Dr. Lauren Chambers is no longer employed at Riverside Mental Health effective immediately. I read the email twice, then I deleted it and went back to debugging the medical records database that was 6 weeks behind schedule. Another piece removed from the board. Another consequence delivered. Lauren's professional life was over. Her friendships were over. Her marriage was over. Everything she had built was burning down, and I was standing in the ruins holding the match. Lauren finally came home on Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. I had been expecting her for 2 days. I had spent Monday evening and all of Tuesday packing her belongings into cardboard boxes and black trash bags. Methodically, carefully. I did not damage anything or throw anything away. I just sorted through our shared space and removed everything that was definitively hers and hers alone. Her clothes, all of them. Her books, her personal documents, her toiletries, her jewelry, her college textbooks that she insisted on keeping even though they were 15 years old, her photo albums from before we met. Everything. The boxes were stacked in the front yard, all 23 of them, along with 6 large trash bags full of her clothes and shoes. Everything sitting on our lawn in neat rows like I was having the world's most depressing yard sale. The neighbors were definitely getting a show. I had seen Mrs. Patterson from next door standing on her porch that morning, coffee mug in hand, just staring at the boxes and very obviously judging the situation. Mr. Kim from across the street had slowed his car to a crawl driving past, craning his neck to see what was happening. Word would spread through the neighborhood within hours. Good. Lauren's car jerked to a stop in the driveway when she saw the boxes. She just sat there for a long time, maybe 2 minutes, her hands on the steering wheel, staring at the evidence of her life sitting in the grass. Then slowly she got out of the car, moving like someone in a dream or a nightmare. "Daniel," she called, her voice strained and hoarse. "Daniel, what is this? What are you doing?" I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. I had been waiting inside, watching through the window. "Your belongings. You do not live here anymore." "You cannot just kick me out," her voice rose sharply. "This is my house too. I have rights. You cannot just throw me out like garbage." "Check the deed," I said calmly. "The house is in my name only. I bought it 2 years before we got married. You moved in after the wedding. Your name is not on the mortgage. Your name is not on the title. Legally, this is my house, and I am asking you to leave." "This is insane." She came up the driveway toward me, her fists clenched at her sides. "You are being vindictive and cruel, and you cannot just do this." "Do not come inside," I said, my voice firm. "If you try to enter this house, I will call the police and report you for trespassing." "Trespassing? I live here." "No," I corrected. "You lived here. Past tense. You abandoned the marital residence for 4 days without contact. I have offered to return all your personal property to you. Everything you owned is right there on the lawn. This is completely legal." She stopped at the bottom of the porch steps, shaking with what I assumed was rage, or possibly fear, or maybe both mixed together. "You are destroying my life," she said, and her voice broke on the last word. "My job, my friends, my home, everything I had, you have taken it all away." "I destroyed nothing," I said, keeping my tone level and emotionless. "You made choices, Lauren. You chose to sleep with 3 married men. You chose to lie every single day for 9 months. You chose to betray your friends and your marriage. I am simply making sure those choices have consequences." I made a mistake, the scream echoed across the suburban street, probably waking up dogs and small children. People make mistakes, Daniel. Normal people forgive mistakes. Normal people work through problems. Normal people do not destroy everything. A mistake is one time, I said, and I realized I had been thinking about this sentence for weeks, preparing it, polishing it. A mistake is accidental. A mistake is regretted immediately. You had 3 different ongoing affairs for 9 months. You lied every single day. You looked me in the eyes and told me you loved me while you were planning which hotel to meet which man at. Those were not mistakes. Those were choices, deliberate, calculated choices. I am sorry. She was crying now, huge gasping sobs. How many times do I have to say I am sorry? What do you want from me? What will make this stop? Nothing, I said simply. I want absolutely nothing from you. I do not want your apology. I do not want your explanations. I do not want your presence in my life. I want you gone. I reached into my pocket and pulled out an envelope. Inside was $500 in cash, 20s and 50s that I had withdrawn from the bank that morning. I tossed the envelope down to her. It landed at her feet on the concrete walkway. That should be enough for a week at a motel while you figure things out, I said. Do not contact me. Do not come back here. Do not call. Do not text. Do not attempt to speak to me in any way. If you do, I will file a restraining order. Do you understand? Lauren bent down and picked up the envelope with shaking hands. She opened it, saw the cash, and something in her face just broke completely. $500, she said numbly. You are giving me $500 after 6 years of marriage. Consider it generous given the circumstances. Daniel, please. She took a step toward the porch, her hand outstretched like she was reaching for something that had already fallen away. Please, can we just talk like adults? Can we just have one real conversation about this? I know I hurt you. I know I messed up. But we can fix this if you just talk to me. We are having a conversation, I said. It is the last conversation we will ever have. Your family lives in Cincinnati, about 2 hours from here. I suggest you call them and ask for help. They will not help me. Her voice was rising again toward hysteria. They will just tell me I deserve this. They will say I made my bed, and now I have to sleep in it. Then I suppose, I said, and I kept my voice very calm and very cold. You will need to figure out how to help yourself for once in your life. I stepped back inside the house and closed the door, locked the deadbolt, drew all the blinds on the front windows. Outside, Lauren screamed my name. She pounded on the door with her fists. She begged, she pleaded. She threatened to call the police herself. She cried so hard I could hear it through the walls. I turned on the television and found a nature documentary about predators in the Serengeti. I sat on my couch and watched lions hunt zebras while my wife fell apart on my front porch. The documentary narrator explained in soothing tones how predators select the weakest members of the herd, how they isolate them, how they bring them down with patience and precision. Nature was brutal but honest, the narrator said. No lies, no betrayal, just survival. She stayed outside for 43 minutes, according to the clock on the cable box. I watched through the side window as she finally gave up on the door and went back to her car. She loaded box after box into her BMW, her movements jerky and desperate and exhausted. The car was not big enough for everything. She could fit maybe 8 boxes and 2 trash bags. She had to make choices about what to take first, what mattered most. She stood in the yard for a long time, maybe 5 minutes, just staring at the remaining boxes like they represented some kind of impossible mathematical problem she could not solve. Her shoulders were shaking. She was still crying. Mrs. Patterson from next door had come out onto her porch to watch, making no attempt to hide her interest. Mr. Kim was mowing his lawn, even though he had mowed it 2 days ago, moving slowly back and forth while staring at Lauren. Finally, she got in her car and drove away, leaving 15 boxes and 4 trash bags sitting on the lawn. The rest of the boxes sat in my front yard for 2 more days. I left them there deliberately, letting the neighborhood see, letting everyone know exactly what had happened. On Friday afternoon, while I was at work, she came back for them. I checked my security camera footage later. She moved like a ghost, quickly and quietly, loading the remaining boxes without looking at the house even once. When I got home that evening, the lawn was empty. The boxes were gone. Good. Friday night. Exactly 1 week since everything started. 7 days since I spoke 3 names out loud in a crowded club and watched my entire life change. I went back to the same nightclub, same bar, same stool where I had stood with Lauren a week ago. I ordered a whiskey neat and let the music and the lights wash over me like I was being baptized in noise. The bartender was different this week, a guy with a shaved head and sleeve tattoos who did not remember me from last Friday. Good. I did not want to be remembered. I just wanted to sit and drink and watch people make the same mistakes that everyone always makes. Amanda Patterson appeared beside me at 9:33. I saw her reflection in the mirror behind the bar before she said anything, her face floating in the glass like a ghost. "Daniel?" she said quietly, barely audible over the music. I turned. She looked better than I had expected. Tired, yes, with lines around her eyes that had not been there a week ago, but not destroyed, not broken. She was wearing jeans and a sweater, no makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Real clothes for a real person, not a costume for a perfect wife. "Amanda." I was genuinely surprised. "I did not expect to see you here." "I wanted to thank you," she said simply. She gestured to the empty stool beside me, asking wordless permission. I nodded. She sat down and ordered a glass of wine. We said nothing until the bartender brought it and moved away to serve someone else. "Thomas moved out on Tuesday morning," Amanda said eventually, her voice flat and factual. "I filed for divorce Wednesday. Jessica filed on Tuesday. Sarah filed on Monday morning first thing." "That was fast," I observed. "We talked, the three of us. Met for coffee on Monday afternoon after we had all stopped crying." Amanda took a long drink of her wine. "We compared stories. We looked at timelines. We realized how long this had been going on and how many lies we had all been told. Jessica's lawyer said we have good grounds for infidelity. Sarah's lawyer said the same thing. The husbands did not contest anything? What could they contest? We had your evidence. We had their confessions. We had everything we needed." Amanda was quiet for a moment. "You know what is funny? We each thought we were crazy. We each had moments where we suspected something was wrong, but we convinced ourselves we were being paranoid. Turns out we were all just being gaslit by the same person." "Lauren is extremely good at lying," I said. "Was," Amanda corrected. "She was extremely good at lying. Past tense." "I heard she lost her job." "Tuesday afternoon. The center director called all three of us to verify what you said. We confirmed everything. They could not keep her after that. Too much liability, too many questions about her judgment and ethics." Amanda finished her wine and gestured for another. "Where is she now?" "I have absolutely no idea. She's not my concern anymore." Amanda studied me for a long moment. "You planned all of this, did you not? From the moment you found out. You waited, and you documented everything, and you executed it perfectly, like a project at work?" "Yes." "That is honestly terrifying," she said, but there was something like admiration in her voice. "Remind me to never get on your bad side. You never lied to me or betrayed me. You have nothing to worry about." My phone buzzed on the bar. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked it up and answered. "Daniel." Lauren's voice was thick and slurred, drunk enough that the words ran together. Background noise suggested she was in a bar somewhere, loud music and loud voices. "Daniel, I need to talk to you. I need you to listen." "No," I said simply. "Please, just hear me out for 1 minute." "You seem to think I care what you have to say. I do not. I will never care what you have to say. You are nothing to me now. Less than nothing. You are a problem I have already solved. You cannot just throw away 6 years of marriage." "You threw them away," I interrupted, keeping my voice completely flat and emotionless. "You threw them away every time you lied to me. Every time you drove to a hotel to meet someone else. Every time you came home and kissed me knowing where you had been. I did not end our marriage. You ended it 9 months ago. I just made sure everyone knew it was over. Daniel, I love you, please." "No, you do not. You love yourself. You love what you wanted, and what felt good, and what made you feel desired. You never loved me. And I certainly do not love you, not anymore, not ever again." "Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do?" "I do not know, and I do not care. Figure it out. You are an adult with a graduate degree. Act like it. Please, I am begging you. Do not call this number again," I said clearly. "Do not try to find me. Do not attempt to contact me in any way. We are done. We will always be done. There is no future where you and I speak again. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "Daniel," I hung up, blocked the number, set my phone face down on the bar, and drained the rest of my whiskey in one long swallow. Amanda watched me with something like awe mixed with horror. "Jesus Christ," she said softly. "You really do not feel anything anymore, do you?" "I feel satisfied," I said honestly. "Is that nothing?" "I guess not." She stood up, putting money on the bar for her drinks. "Thank you, Daniel. Really. For telling us the truth. For not letting it continue. For caring enough to blow everything up even when it hurts you too." "You deserve to know," I said simply. She nodded and left without saying anything else. I watched her walk away through the crowd, disappearing into the mass of bodies and lights. I sat there for another hour, nursing another whiskey, watching people dance and flirt, and make all the same mistakes that led to betrayal and pain and revenge. The same patterns repeating endlessly like a program stuck in a loop. Then I noticed the woman sitting 3 stools down from me. Dark hair pulled back, wearing a simple black dress, reading a book at a bar on a Friday night. She looked up from her book, caught me looking at her, and smiled slightly. "Is it any good?" I asked, gesturing to the book in her hands. "It is about revenge," she said, her voice carrying just enough over the music. "The protagonist destroys everyone who wronged him, but then when it is over, he has nothing left." That sounds depressing. It is honest, though. She closed the book and shifted 1 stool closer. But maybe the author got it wrong. Maybe having nothing left is better than having something poisoned. "I like your interpretation better," I said. "Emily," she said, extending her hand across the gap between us. "Daniel." We shook hands. Her grip was firm and confident, the handshake of someone who knew exactly who she was and did not apologize for it. "So, Daniel," she said, ordering her own drink from the bartender, "what brings you to a loud nightclub on a Friday night, drinking alone at the bar?" "I am celebrating," I said, and it was the truth. "Celebrating what exactly?" "Consequences," I said. "And new beginnings." She laughed. It was a good laugh, genuine and warm and completely unguarded. "I will definitely drink to that," she said, raising her glass. We did.